All right, folks. It looks like we are live again. We're back again this week with the real deal, real God, real faith, real life. I'm Emily Thomas. This is Katie Culbertson, and joining us today are Armin and Mary Ellen Abrahamian. We're glad, everybody. We're so glad that all of you have joined us again from home today. Just remember, as we're talking this morning, if there's something that has struck you in this past week or something that we say, please feel free to add that in the comments. We're going to be tracking along with those as we go. Just to give a little introduction to Armin and Mary Ellen, who have been so gracious to join us today. Mary is a deaconess here at Trinity, and Armin is an elder, just coming actually off of a term of being an elder, and is also on our worship team. And then both of them have been participating in a ministry called the Perennials, which launched just right before we went into this period of isolation and social distancing. So we are looking forward to catching up today on the last 2 weeks of our prayer guides, and then also talking a little bit, Armin and Mary Ellen, with you guys about your experience in this time. So again, as we talk, please feel free to put your thoughts and comments in that comment bar. Armin, I just want to say one little thing. So Armin and I have both served on the worship team together for, I think it's 5 or 6 years now. I think since I moved back. Yeah, and I've really been struck just getting to connect with you a little bit more again now that when you do ministry with people, you get these connections with them that suddenly when that ministry isn't functioning the way it usually had been, you kind of lose that connection. Right. So Armin, it's been really nice to get to talk with you again. Those things that would usually happen where it's like, well, rehearsal's over, let's catch up and have some coffee together, just don't happen in the same natural way anymore. So, so it's
that's when a lot of the relationship building takes place. You know, we get done, we come off the platform, we've done our practice, and now it's just time to catch up on real life. And we don't get that opportunity.
So it's really sweet to get to be with you guys today. Yeah, so actually, Katie, can you give us a little recap of the last week of Set Your Minds and this first week of In Step with the Spirit?
Sure. So if you all remember last time we did the Real Deal, we talked to Cody, and that was sort of right before we were doing our final week of the 7-week devotional Set Your Minds. And that week 7 was on the I am statements of God and who God says he is in scripture. And that was just so encouraging and so grounding for me personally, but to be able to look and say like, okay, God, like, let me remember who you are, and then frame everything else from that space. And so this past Monday, we released or started together as a church our current devotional, In Step with the Spirit, which again is tying together with Cody's 4-week sermon series. So this last week, we really, took the whole week and really tried to think about this idea of how do we walk in step with the Spirit and stay connected to the Spirit. And again, I thought it was such a nice segue from the Set Your Minds of sort of how did we as a church come and think on the truths of who God is and who we are and who are we in relation to other people. And then again, now in this 4-week series of just a deeper understanding of who the Holy Spirit is in our lives and the way that God uses the Holy Spirit and how we walk alongside the Spirit. So Armin and Mary Ellen, any feedback from this first week of the In Step with the Spirit devotional, anything that sort of stood out to you or resonated with you?
Yeah, for me, well, it's the first thing I read every morning. So thank you with the coffee, and that gets me going.
Right.
I like this idea of In Step with the Spirit because each day had something really, really, it just really made you think. But for me, the most one that stuck out was day 4, more of him and less of us.
Yeah.
Means surrendering.
Right.
And again, in this time of the COVID and all that's going on in the world with the riots, it's really a time to, pull back, sit, and really connect
Right.
with what we are supposed to be doing. And less of us and more of him, which
Right.
means reaching out and serving, and that still can be done. It can be done. We're all doing it. We're Zooming, we're giving, we're praying. That's not going to stop. Nothing stop that. And it's not easy because we can get caught up with all kinds of things to interrupt us during the day. But I really like Thursday's day 4, and also the verse that we are looking at it. It's Galatians. So being in step. And I think it really causes people to kind of be still.
Right.
I hope.
Right.
I think so too. And I think you hit on something else, Mary Ellen, there when you talked about the things that we can keep doing. We can keep praying, we can keep serving, we can keep connecting. And that was part of I think it was part of the next steps today, actually, was talking about the things that haven't disappeared in this time. And you hit on that so beautifully, Mary Ellen. There are things that have not gone away. They might look different, but they're still there the same as they always have been. So yeah.
Right.
I think
That's great.
more so than ever, the buildings may be closed, but we are not. We are in our houses, and we have all different kinds of lifestyles, but we're it.
Right.
As I believe Cody mentioned in one of the services, we are the church, it's not the building. So
Right.
we're really seeing efforts from all different directions to keep the relationships built, and even building in new and fresh ways. It is a real time of opportunity, but what is so good about the In Step with the Spirit series is keeping that top of mind. I need to stay in step with the Spirit. It's just that constant reminder, because this is not our normal routine is gone. From our work day to everything, social life, and those that are in school and everything else. So it's been very timely.
But it's also slowed us down, I think, as a society. Instead of running here and there, hustle, have to do this, have to do that, it's slowed us down. So like Cody said last week, don't waste the quarantine.
Yeah. And yeah, Cody talked a lot last week about this idea of walking with the Spirit and what that looks like. And I loved how he touched on this idea of walking next to somebody that you love, and the attention and the focus that you have when you're walking, when it's just the two of you, and you're trying to put all of your focus, that other person is so special to you that you want them to see that they're getting all of you, they're getting everything. And so keeping up with that isn't an easy thing to do. Mary Ellen, you hit on less of me, more of him. That is just, it is so humbling and challenging to keep coming back to that throughout the day, just because it's not in our nature. It's not in our nature to sit back and always think more of you, less of me. So it's one of those disciplines that you really have to develop. And so, Katie, has anything translated this week for you in terms of keeping in step with the Spirit and new ways that you're maybe trying to do that?
Sure. So I really resonate with what both Emily and Armin and Mary Ellen were saying of that it's sort of this walk, right? And Cody in his sermon this past Sunday, referenced the theme verse, Galatians 5:25, but also talked about the fruits of the Spirit. That is the verse that comes right before. It's Galatians 5:22 through 23 that talks about the fruit of the Spirit. And so I've, with doing the devotional and really, again, I think this prayer too for myself has been more of God, less of me, right? But focusing on one of those fruits of the Spirit each day, and sort of really asking God, okay, how can I have more of your goodness in my life towards other people, more of your self-control, more of your love, patience, kind of going through each of those fruits and looking at them as in the whole, that they're all of value, but taking and kind of taking one out, right? And then seeing that as a lens through how I approach my interactions with other people, my interactions, my thoughts that I have towards myself, my thoughts that I have about God. And that's really also just been kind of this deeper layer, this deeper understanding of, okay, how do I walk with God, right? How do I try to strengthen this relationship? And that it really is a process and something that keeps building over time. And we talk about faith as a muscle, right? And so it's sort of this similar practice of, like you were saying, it has to be a discipline where, again, we're setting our mind on who God says he is and then who we are in relation to him. But then also, I love how action oriented this sermon series is, right? That's probably a little bit of my own stuff of like, I can't do anything. But it's action oriented in the fact of, oh no, but I can, right? Like there's a lot of work that needs to be done in my heart. And so how do I kind of come from a place of surrender, humility, like you were both talking about.
Katie, let me comment on that actually,
yeah.
because when this whole, in March, when the COVID thing really started hitting and we were being quarantined, my thought process at that time was, great, I'm going to be able to take time away from work.
Right.
I'm going to spend more time at home. I'm going to get into the Word. I'm going to read this, study that, and devote more hours and quiet time, be able to pull away. Okay. And actually, ironically, what's happened is, in a way, it's been the opposite for me. What's happened, because I spend so many hours in my business, I have an insurance agency, and because everything, there's no more routine that is normal.
Right.
And so I've had to spend whatever, 70 hours a week, whatever the number is, retooling and redesigning things. And then I find myself thrown into a brand new opportunity that's thrust on me at the same time. So I'm juggling these two things, one that has been familiar and one that is brand new. And I'm completely like a fish out of water every day. So what's happened is, this series and the prior series and so forth, every day it's a, Lord, you've got to shepherd me. Right. I've got to make maybe a dozen decisions a day that I never was faced with before. So what God is doing in stretching me through this is forcing me, causing me to really have to lean on him. So being prepared in the morning, and there have been a few days I have not. I just jumped right in, and man, oh man, those days it's like being, hit with a 2x4, a pitchfork in the side. It's like, this isn't going right, But it's just a constant bathing myself in coming back every day. That action you talked about, that's what you're thinking about this. It is an action. It's daily, and it's literally every hour. I'm right back to, okay, Lord, I really need to be in step with your Spirit now.
Right. It's so good. Yeah.
And I just saw Kim mention that that it is such a struggle. This idea of being a Christian and being a business owner can be a really, really challenging thing. And it's, we're talking about keeping in step with the Spirit, which is, it's both a very individual and a very communal thing. And I was really struck with that this week. I'm thinking about you, Armin, in your business, and you're in this place where you're coming from one specific, you're coming from a specific place. You're trying to live your life in a specific way, and then you're keeping in step with the Spirit as best as you can. But then you're interacting with all these other people all throughout the day, and so that is, when you're talking about a muscle that you exercise, having your reaction always come from that place of Jesus and that place of God and your relationship with him. It really is an exercise that you have to do, so that is your knee-jerk reaction, and it's not anything else. But as I've been thinking both about that individual and communal piece of things, I've been thinking about how there's this part that you do alone, and then there's the part that you do with people. And we talked a little earlier about how right before this quarantine started, a new ministry launched here at Trinity called the Perennials. And I think you guys had a chance to have one gathering before everything kind of
It was a blast.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah. But you got to have that one moment together. And my thought has been, well, that is just such a blessing, because that gave you guys a launching pad to start from. And so is there a way that the two of you see the Perennials as playing a role in helping people keep in step with the Spirit from a communal perspective?
Definitely. You want to share, or you want me to? I mean,
I think so. I think, when we had the potluck, there were like 60 people that came.
Yeah.
Which was great. And there was
Food
a
was
sign-up sheet, and
outstanding,
everybody
too.
brought something. And then Joel has the list. So he kind of had the thought process of saying, we don't want this to just drop here. Let's start a Zoom and see if people will join on. And they have. And I think a good way is that, to stay connected, we've started to do testimonies. So it's a really good way of, how do people get to Trinity? How do they come to know the Lord? And so when we can gather face to face again, it's like, hey, yeah, how are you? It's a good tool for everybody to connect,
right?
And to encourage, I think, each other. And it's really, it's been nice hearing different people's stories.
It's building relationships in a great way. I mean, folks are, we've had two evenings of testimonials, and we're having one this coming Tuesday. And what happens is it's 1 hour long, and people Zoom in, and somebody gives it their testimony. And it doesn't just have, it's what God is doing now in their life also.
Right.
And it's just a great way to get to know one another. And Katie, you talked about the fruits of the Spirit, I mean, joy, peace, patience, love, all of that is coming through, and it's just very genuine. And they're funny. I mean, some of the stories you'd never think, oh my goodness, she went through that, or he was like that as a kid, and how God has just worked in our lives. So it's something I look forward to. And I'll even say, you don't have to be 50 or older to jump on this thing and listen in. We want
anybody can go on. And I know that it goes on the Trinity announcements with the link.
Right.
Yeah, I think when it started, I think there was this idea that it was going to only involve sort of the older generations of our church. But what I've loved seeing is that there are people from all generations that are stepping in, especially right now. Amy just mentioned that she really enjoyed the last Perennials testimonial night. She's definitely not in an older category by any stretch, but it's really lovely. I think that's one of our strengths here at Trinity.
You'll learn a lot from us old folks.
You're not old, not old. But I think that's one of our strengths here at Trinity, right? We are a multi-generational group, and we love to learn from each other, and I think that what the quarantine has actually opened up are some additional opportunities. I was just thinking that I actually hopped on a Zoom call with the Prayer Shawl Ministry a couple of weeks ago to see some of those ladies. Wow. I don't participate in Prayer Shawl, but I love some of the things that they're doing, and I love just getting to see their faces again and talk with them. And like I said earlier, Armin, about you and I not getting to connect as much right now, there is this whole aspect of being part of Trinity Church that is that we're a group that comes together, focused on the mission, on Jesus, on the mission of Jesus, on the mission of the church, and that's where our relationship builds from. And so we've had to navigate how to stay connected on that mission in this time, and that's challenging, but thankfully has been doable, not necessarily exactly the way we want it to be, but in ways that we can keep connecting.
Definitely a period of new beginnings. It really is. And,
it is.
And things that we're going to even want to keep going. Certain things. We don't need to shut the door on when we get back to what the new normal's going to look like.
Right. Yeah, and it speaks to, I think, the point that you touched on at the beginning, Mary Ellen, when we had Cody on on the last time, this kind of idea of like, don't waste your quarantine, right? And we keep going back to this, but and personally, I feel the perennials is a perfect example of that, right? Like you guys could have said, oh, we'll just wait, right? We'll just wait to meet this. We'll just wait till it's over. It's not going to be as good on Zoom. And sure, I'm sure there's so much missed when we can't be like in physical proximity to each other. But what an encouragement to still see God move despite the limitations. And it's really awesome to, like you're saying, Emily, to be able to think about, okay, how does our vision supersede our circumstances, right? That we know we serve a God that's bigger than the limitations of human condition. And so how do we press into that? And this is a way, right? Still building that relationship, still sharing testimony of God's provision or just God's work in your life. And that, like you're saying, Armin, that can then translate even once we're back meeting in person, where you sort of know someone better because of the way you were able to connect with them even during this time. So just a really, really awesome thing to have going on, and a neat opportunity, like you're saying.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that too, that, there will be relationships that people have now that they didn't have before they went into quarantine, were isolated, which feels backwards. But I just look forward to people who really have only seen each other on screens now get to meet in person for the first time eventually. And that's going to be a really beautiful thing.
As the elders came together 1 year ago, I mean, we're coming to the end of our fiscal year, right?
Right.
And as we began last fiscal year, July 2019, one of the big focuses that we talked about was building relationships amongst ourselves. We really wanted to put a focus on that and intentionally make that effort. And, it's been happening, pre-COVID, post-COVID. It's encouraging to see. I mean, God's really, I believe in many ways we're listening, and the In Step with the Spirit series keeps us all on a track that I think is real important. It's like a glue that he's the glue, but we need to see it in black and white, and you're providing that, which is a huge help.
Well, and Julia mentioned in the comments here that she's really been looking more intentionally to see God move during this time.
Yeah.
And I think it's so easy to see, and we do it all the time, right? We look back on our past and we say, oh, I see you there, God. I see what you were doing. But it's a hindsight mindset.
Right.
And I think now what Julia is hitting on is this mindset to keep focused on looking for where God's moving now and not missing those moments.
Right. Right.
When we talk about not wasting our quarantine, it's also not missing what's happening right now.
Yeah.
But I think that, that's going to be something that we're going to be we can put more of a focus on right now, trying to notice the ways that we're seeing God that maybe we might in other times not have, with so many things rushing and happening and going on, we might have missed and only seen in hindsight. And I don't know about you. I don't want to only see God in hindsight. I want to see what he's doing. I want to be in tune and in step with where he's moving. So it's, you're very right, Armin, when you're, sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Previous series where the one day, I actually want to go back and try to see where it is, the names of God. And the one that I just kept coming back to all week is, God, my shepherd.
Yeah.
My shepherd, lead me. And again, it's in my face during my workday, and with all the opportunities to reconnect with people that I haven't connected with, maybe, old high school friends, college friends, but make it count, not just, hey, how you doing? But, there's opportunities right now because so many people are to witness. So many people are scared, full of fear, what's going on. I mean, and we really are living in a day and age where we can really make a difference. But we need to be led by the Spirit. Don't want to run out of them or off to the side and all that Praise
So I'm going to throw a question out because Cody outed me during his sermon last week. And
That's right.
had a conversation where I said, you know, I don't want to see the same people come back. I want to see transformed people.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to throw it out to all of us, if anybody's willing to share. Is there a way that you're hoping to come out of this time differently? Is there one thing that you kind of feel like God is calling to mind? I can go first. I can be a very impatient person. So I'm really trying to remember that patience isn't just a response, but it's also an attitude. And it's an attitude of grace toward people. And it's an attitude of not running my mind and jumping to conclusions about things, which I know, you know, ties into other things, but when we're talking about fruits of the Spirit, I'm really, patience is that one that I've often said, God, please give me patience. You know, I don't want to work for it. I don't want to develop it.
Right.
I just want you to hand it over. And
Right.
this is one of those times where we have a chance to develop some of those things really intentionally. And so, so that for me is the big one. I want to be known as a formerly impatient, now patient person, I suppose. Anybody else have thoughts on that? No?
Yeah,
No,
no, I hear you.
I know
on
it's
patience,
Yeah.
but it does, I kind of jump to conclusions too, but
Yeah.
I think I've become more patient over the years. Yeah.
I'll just throw in something, and that is that, you know, because prior to all of this, we had our routines, and the disruption of routine has caused me, at least, to have
Anxiety.
to really, I was going to say, to really have to go back to trusting God, trusting His leading. So if all of a sudden we snapped our fingers and everything was life back to normal, okay, and this never even happened, I would hope that I would be maybe listening more and not just going on the normal rote routine. God is there, I know that, and He's in here, and I'm always considering Him, but I mean, taking that relationship to the next level, to really trusting and listening. That's what I would hope for me would be a change.
Yeah, and Pam is echoing that in the comment, saying that she wants to come out of this with a stronger faith. And I think the way that you've just talked about faith, Armin, and it, I think it's a word we throw around so frequently, but it's a very deep. There's a lot of deep-rooted connection and trust that comes with faith. So I hear what you're saying, certainly.
Yeah, and I think one thing, you know, we talked about this the first time, Emily, and it shouldn't surprise me, but I hope that I come out of this quarantine, you know, really holding on to this reminder and understanding with the writing of each of these devotionals, 40 Days of Harmony, Set Your Minds, In Step with the Spirit. It has been so abundantly clear to me that God literally has gone ahead of us and knew things that I did not know, right? I could not have predicted, like, time and time again, it's sort of like, oh, I did not see that coming. I didn't see this coming. And so, you know, how humbling, but to your point, Armin, of how do I live with that sort of trust, right? Knowing that I don't know the future. I don't have, my understanding is so small, but how do I rest in that, right? And kind of walk in that process, knowing who God is, and that I don't center all of my attention on sort of, you know, God, where were you, or why did this happen? But rather, like, okay, like, you're sovereign, clearly, like, and how can I walk in that too? So that's been just such a humbling reminder again and again and again here. Yeah.
No, I feel constantly humbled in quarantine, like over and over and over.
Yes.
The other thing with trust and faith, this is what hits me when you guys were all talking. Trust and faith comes for what we may want in our lives, not necessarily what He is going to give us.
Right.
We have to have the trust and faith of what He wants for us.
Right.
And sometimes we go, oh, okay, well, I'm going to accept that.
Right.
You know, we tend to sometimes, I want this, or Lord, I need this, or Lord, I need that. But I think He's patient with us to say, you know what? in time, I'm going to give you what I think you need. And when
Yeah.
we get that, we have to be thankful.
Mm.
So the faith and the trust comes, I think, for me, in what he really wants for me.
It's like the song, trust in the Lord.
So then we
with all
get
your
back
heart,
to
like
dying
Proverbs
to
3, 5,
yourself.
and 6.
Right.
That's
Right.
it right there. Powerful
Absolutely.
scripture.
Yeah.
It's not our own understanding.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that takes a while to,
It's a
chew
lifelong
on.
relationship.
Right. Right.
Certainly not an overnight
No.
overnight thing. No.
no.
So we're hitting our time for the morning, which I'm sad to say. But I just wanted to give everybody some info on what they can expect if they want to tune in for the next Perennials meeting. Can you guys give us some info on what's coming up for you for that ministry?
So sure, this coming Tuesday, the 9th. So it's the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month at 7 p.m. And the two people that will be giving testimony are Charlotte Stokel and Bill Dean.
Neat.
And
Awesome.
so the two of them will share, and it's just 1 hour. And there's chance for some Q&A and laughter and fun. And it's an opportunity to really get to know people in a fresh new way. So
Awesome.
please tune into that.
That's awesome. Yeah, and just a reminder, it's not just for, I think originally the graphic says, 50 and older, but it's not limited to that. So if you're interested, please, we can put the info in the comments for you, but we can also send the info out. Again, it'll go out in that email that goes to the church with all of the Zoom links for upcoming meetings. So keep an eye out for that as well.
Yeah.
Well, we just want to thank everybody for joining us again this week. It's fun for us to get to do this and bring a little bit of conversation to your mornings. So we hope that it's been life-giving for you, as I feel like it's been life-giving for us. So I'd love to pray to close our time together today.
Yeah.
Lord, thank you for the gift of friendship and the gift of community. We thank you for the ways that we can still come together in these times that we are separated, while we look forward to reuniting again, hopefully sooner than later. Lord, thank you for the many ministries here at Trinity that are drawing different generations together and helping us to learn from each other, helping us to see how others' walks with you have grown them, so that we can take that as strength as well as we are walking our own journey with you, Lord. So I pray today that you'd be with all of those who joined us or might tune in later, that as they go upon their day, we'd all be watching to see how we're keeping in step with the Spirit and how we're encouraging each other. We love you, Lord, and we pray these things in your Son's name. Amen.
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 Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining us. And actually our next, and our next Real Deal will be in 2 weeks from now. So you can look forward to joining us back then. And we hope that you will follow along in the comments, and we will see you all again soon.
Awesome.
Right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.